All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So different style of video here, but this is something that I've been wanting to talk about really since they introduced the new rule. And it's this whole special teams kickoff shift that we're going to have to adapt and adjust with in 2024. And to kind of preface, right, on how important this new rule is, we will literally see games multiple times get decided by this rule. Wins and losses will be decided by this rule. What teams will have success with it, what teams will take advantage of this rule, what teams will be proactive, what teams will drag their feet. I think there's so many different aspects to this rule that's going to impact, again, the outcomes of a lot of games this upcoming season. So the New York Jets, along with the other 31 teams in football, better take it seriously. And I think they will, right? I think the teams that and really special teams coordinators that dive headfirst into this rule will benefit in a couple months when the season starts. I mean, there's so many different nuanced things that you can do. I personally would not be surprised if we start seeing legitimate playbooks being introduced because of this rule, right? That's how much just this change can make. So let's kind of talk about first the goal, right? What's the reason why this is being installed? According to the NFL, they wanted to bring more excitement to the game, right? The old kickoff rule, I guess, was too boring. Kickers kicking it out of the end zone, touchbacks, fair catches, and whatnot. So yes, they want to bring more excitement to the game, but at the same time, they also want to keep it safe for players in special teams, right? The whole argument before, when they initially made some kickoff changes a couple years ago, it was, we don't want players running full speed at each other and stuff like that. I mean, you even see that at the youth level. So, I do understand it from that point, from that aspect. So that's kind of the driving force here. Bring more excitement to special teams, which is, for the most part, a pretty quote unquote boring aspect to a lot of people out there. Personally, I don't think it's boring at all. And normally I'm against a lot of rule changes, because I think when you have a lot of rule changes, or even really just one rule change, teams will find loopholes. Teams will poke holes in it, right? This is not a polished rule here. There's going to be teams that take advantage of it. There's going to be teams that are proactive with it. Goodell even said himself that there could be adjustments to the rule moving forward, which tells me that there's going to be problems with it. Not necessarily problems to where they're going to have to trash the whole idea, but just I could see coaches, right, the top end special teams coaches figuring out loopholes, how to navigate the system, navigate special teams, if you will. But let's kind of dive into what this whole new rule is, because I still feel like there's a lot of confusion out there. And to be 100% honest, I think it's not going to really click until probably week 2 of the regular season, when we've seen it time and time again, throughout the preseason and whatnot. So I think the most important thing here is the formation, right? How do teams line up? So the kicker lines up normally, right? That doesn't change. What changes is the fact that we have the rest of the kicking special teams players line up on the receiving team's 40-yard line. And it just has to be 1 foot on the 40-yard line. The receiving special teams players will be lined up anywhere from the 30, their own 30, to 35-yard line, right? So there's that little buffer. And I'm expecting to see a bunch of different, formations and whatnot. Not anything crazy, but just, we all know it. Football's a game of inches. Every single yard matters. The positioning is going to be really interesting to kind of monitor as we, progress throughout the season with this rule. But basically, again, you have your kicker lined up just as normal, and then the rest of the squad at the 40, 1 foot on the 40, then 9 special teams players of the receiving team must line up anywhere between the 30 and the 35-yard line, with at least 7 players with a foot on the 35-yard line. So again, when we're talking about the receiving team here, we got 9 players in this zone, the 35 to the 30, right? That little buffer zone. The other 2 players are going to be lined up as receivers or kickoff specialists, right? And those guys are going to be lined up anywhere from the goal line to the 20-yard line, and they're going to be calling that the landing zone, which essentially turns into like a mini punt, right? Not exactly, but same kind of idea on the receiving ends part of it. So you're going to want to get players the football who make plays with the football in their hands. Specifically, when we're talking about the New York Jets, I think of Malachi Corley. I think of Xavier Gibson. Right, I would not be surprised if we see a lot just throughout the course of the NFL star players line up back there. You know, I think Tyreek Hill makes sense for the Miami Dolphins to do it. Again, this is going to impact these games whether we like it or not. You know, for better or for worse, we'll kind of see. I guess, but it's just another wrinkle that they're adding to special teams here. But going back to the rule, you have the two players that can receive the kick. Now, you can't call a fair catch. That's being taken out. You have to field it. Now, the ball can bounce on the field, but if it lands within those 20 yards, it must be returned. If it doesn't, right, if the ball hits the turf before that 20-yard line, it's essentially a penalty, and the receiving team will take it out to the 40-yard line. If the ball gets kicked and it ends up in the end zone, right, so it rolls in there or whatever, it just bounces in the end zone, but it stays in bounds, the receiving team has to go pick up the football and either return it, and then it looks like if it's downed, then the touchback goes out to the 30-yard line. If the ball goes outside of the end zone, right, which is what we normally see on these kickoffs, just when they boot it out, that's an automatic touchback, and they put the opposing offense at the 30-yard line. Now, an interesting kind of layer that I still personally have a question about is with onside kicks, right? I mean, if I think back to the days growing up, I remember there would be times where a team would come out of halftime and just onside kick it and just catch the defense or catch the defensive special teams unit off guard. I think there's even been times where a team just starts right out of the gate with an onside kick, right, which is always super exciting. But with the miscellaneous rules, according to the NFL on their football operations website, they don't really go into detail with it. Let's take a look at it. So in the onside kick category here, they only have 2 bullet points. Fourth quarter begins, the team trailing has the opportunity to declare an onside kick to the officials. And then the second bullet point says current onside kickoff rules would apply if the onside kick goes beyond the setup zone untouched. Then the kicking team would be penalized and the return team would start the drive at the 20-yard line. I mean, so, if we're just going off these 2 bullet points alone, you basically just have to, man, I just love the surprise element of the onside kick. I mean, I don't know, like you don't really see teams do an onside kick when they're up, right, obviously, but I don't know, like with this, it kind of just seems like you are literally not allowed to do that. And it seems like you have to, like everybody, and again, the onside kick is such a low probability type of play, but there's ways that you can make it happen when the defense doesn't, or the defensive special teams unit doesn't know if it's coming or not. But it looks like in this, we're going to have to let everybody know, right? Refs will know, both teams will know, and we'll just have to line up completely different. And then it's just, all right, once that football's kicked, then, just all hell breaks loose, and it's just, whoever gets the football gets the football. So, man, it's going to be confusing. I'm just trying to picture in the season, like this actually playing out. I think there's going to be tons of touchdowns. I think there's going to be lots of plays where, your offense scores a TD and then you can't just get up and go to the kitchen or get up and go to the bathroom or something, because you got to, make sure that this opposing team doesn't just freaking take the football all the way back. If we think about it, the 30 to 35 yard line, you got your blockers, and you got the defense, right, on the 40. So it's like you got to break through a wall. But, again, with the way it's set up with these 2 lines of players in such a short distance, if you break through that wall, like there's a really, really good chance that you can take it the distance. So again, I think from the NFL's perspective, this is going to bring more excitement to the game. But like we were talking about before, whenever you introduce a new rule, there's going to be loopholes. There's going to be probably tons of flags that come with this from, whether it's coaches, whether, lining guys up a certain way, whether it's players, potentially being lined up incorrectly, or not following the rules exactly how it's laid out here, from the NFL themselves. I just feel like it could be a little messy. It could be a little sloppy. I can envision a lot of fan bases really angry for playing a really good game and then blowing it on this new special teams rule. And then, again, wins and losses are going to be impacted by this. I truly believe that. So we'll see how this whole thing plays out. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, but I'll say this. I think the New York Jets are really well positioned to take advantage of this new rule. But again, I want to be proactive with it. I want to see Boyer literally draw up plays in special teams to utilize this rule. So that's going to do it for me. Hopefully I was able to explain it in a way that it made sense a little bit, because I know for me, the first couple times of reading over it, reading over the rules here and even talking to a couple buddies, like literally nobody that I know personally has a clue how this thing is going to work. Like they're like, bro, can you, do you know anything about this special teams rule? So I figured, hey, you know what? Let me make a video about it. So hopefully it was clear. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.